Okay, part two of quadratic formula. So the first video kind of explained the setup process of getting the quadratic equation and formula, or the quadratic equation set up, and getting A, B, and C figured out. That's going to be very critical for this next step. So, in part two, we're going to look at the quadratic equation, and when we solve this for x, we get this. You get this when you solve for x. Now you might want to stop the video and write this part down. Okay? This one right here is what we just figured out. Remember, I gave you this one with the factored, and I solved it, and we've got two answers. Well, what if we use our alternative method? Do you think that we're going to get the same outcome? Well, let's try. Here we go. And this is something that when you're in doubt of you don't think it can factor, this is where you should go. This will 100% get you there if it can factor. So here we go. So this is what we call x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2 times a. Do you see where all the a, b, and c are in this? That's what we're trying to figure out, remember? So let's try the one that we just did. Let's rewrite that up here. Let's try that one. So let's do maybe example. Example. And write that down. And they should be equal to 0. Of course, remember, you're trying to solve. So you have this quadratic equation. Now we're trying to factor it. So when in doubt, use the quadratic formula. So, one thing, is it quadratic? Yes. Is it descending order? Yes. Find the A, B, and C. So A, B, and C. So A, B, and C. Where's A now? Well, A is technically that 1 right in front of the x squared, right? So that's 1. What's B? Well, let's see. B is 3. Where's C? C is 2. You distinguished all the numbers that you need. Plug it in. Plug into formula once you distinguish this. So, use the formula. Be very careful how you do this. I'm going to try to do this slowly at first, but I'm going to speed it up. So, first off, I have my equation down. You might want to always rewrite the equation because it helps you get to the mental part of it. So, we got this here. So, this is going to equal, line like this, negative. I'm going to put a parenthesis for the b, plus or minus the square root. Make sure that square root covers everything inside. So you have b squared minus 4a times c. You see how that square root covers everything inside? Be very careful. Some students, they do this. And then they get confused when they take the square root. Okay? And then 2 times a. Okay? Just like that. Everything is parenthesis what I'm going to put in. So the parentheses is what I'm putting in. And that's what I'm going to be putting in. This is what I'm going to be putting in. Okay, so here we go. B is 3, right? B is on the outside, so 3. B is also right here. Is there any more B's? You could start with A if you want, but it doesn't matter as long as you put things in the right place. What's A then? Let's see. A is inside, and A is down there. All I'm doing is substituting where the numbers should be for the formula. Where's C? Well, C is right there at the end. So what is that? 2? Okay. So make sure, that's why I'm trying to think you should write this all down and don't skip steps, because this is where it gets a lot of work. Now, just simple PEMDAS. This is pretty much PEMDAS. So now it's just pretty much PEMDAS. Okay. So now be very careful. I would just try to do as much as I possibly can, but don't skip steps. So I know the bottom's 2. I know -3 plus or minus the square root. What's 3 squared? 9. Okay, be careful with this. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. -8. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. -8. You see how I did that? Okay. Now, keep going. -3 plus or minus the square root of 1 over 2. Okay. -3 plus or minus, what's the square root of 1? Square root of 1. 1, right? 2. Okay. Now, this technically has two answers. That's where the plus or minus go. So here's what you're going to have to do. Be careful with this. Your first answer should be -3 plus 1 all over 2. And -3 minus 1 over 2. You see what I did? With a plus and plus ones, plus 1, minus 1. Solve. So what is -2? I'm sorry, -2. What is -2 over 2? -1, right? What's -3 minus 1? -4. What's -4 divided by 2? -2. And remember, these are x solving for x. So this is an x, and this is an x. There's your solutions. Let's check. Let's check a little bit. So we got this one and this one. They work. So it doesn't matter. Be very careful. One last thing about this. These are solved for x. Rather than when you come back up here, do you see the difference? You don't get this form. You don't get this form, you get the solved form when you do the quadratic formula. And what that means is that you got to be very careful. If you're trying to factor this, you got to actually put it back in this form. And that's really key. So actually I do want to go with that last thing. So what if it said to factor? What if it said to factor? If I use my quadratic equation, or sorry, formula, and I get this, this is what you should have. This is what you get. Right? I want to get it back. I want to get it into this form. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to add 1, add 1. Well, what happens on this side? Well, you get 0, right? Equals to what? X plus 1. What if you add 2 to both sides? Well, this side has 0. This side has x plus 2. There's your solutions. So that's how you go backwards. That's how you get that if you were asked to factor. What if it said to solve? This is what you're solving for. A lot goes into this. I'm telling you, you have to. This is a big step, big chunk of what we're trying to accomplish, and applications are used a lot with this, and that's really part of where we use equations and formulas to kind of help us out. That was not that bad. I want to at least try one more to kind of get you familiar with this. So let's try some more. I'm going to get rid of this and this because we don't need that anymore. That was just that one problem. Okay. Let's try this one. What if I said solve What if I said solve for that one? Okay. So first thing, is it quadratic? Yep. Is it descending order? Yep. Where's A and B at? One, B is 6, B is 5. Right? Solve. Use the formula. So remember that formula? I would write it down several times. There's actually a song about it you can get. I didn't learn it that way. I actually learned it by memorizing it, just kind of taking a piece of like scratch paper, writing down the formula, and just keep it with me. Yeah, you know what? That's how you learn. Put some work into it. It pays off in the long run, I'm telling you. So, here we go. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2 times a. Okay, so keep going. So remember this. B parentheses plus or minus the square root of b minus 4 times ac 2a. Okay? Just write everything out. Now plug this in. So this time I'm going to go A. A is this one here, and A, don't put A, put the number. Put the number. So 1 and 1. That's for A. B is B here. 6 is there. And then C. And then solve. So minus 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared is 36. 4 times 1 is 4. Times 5 is 20. Minus 20. And 2. Okay. Minus 6 plus or minus 36 minus 20. That's going to be 16 over 2. Minus 6 plus or minus 4 over 2. The square root of 16 is 4. So minus 6 plus 4 divided by 2, or minus 6 minus 4 divided by 2. Remember, your minus, positive. So your solutions, if you don't mind, I'm going to actually go like this. Back up here. I'm running out of room. These get long. So this is minus 6 plus 4, which is minus 2. So minus 2 divided by 2 is 1. So x equals negative 1. For this one, you have minus 10 divided by 2 is x equals negative 5. Is that correct? Okay, so these are your solutions. Those are your solutions. What if you didn't believe me? You can plug this back in. You can also factor it old style without using this. So let's factor it old style. Let's see if we get this. So let's see. Diamond. We have a 5. We have a 6. Okay, let's see. 1 times 5. 1 times 5 is it. So 1 and 5. So 1 and 5. Well, guess what? 1 and 5 are it. These are your solutions. So this is going to be x plus 1, x plus 5. And if you equal to 0, don't you get that? Cool. Now, I didn't give you one that's not factorable. And I kind of don't want to give you one yet, because it gets really long. And plus, you run into a problem with decimals when things don't work out. I just want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with this. When the square root does not have a positive, then you cannot do. You cannot do it. You're probably thinking, what do you mean? When the square root is not a positive. Watch this. We can take the square root of 16. We can take the square root of 6. We can take the square root of 36. We can take the minus 36, right? That's just a minus 30. That's a minus 6. This is just 6. This is just 4. Remember how to do this? You have to break this down. So this is about what, 2.3 maybe? Well, what happens to this? Do you see where the negative's at? Do you see where the negative's at in these? They're under, not out, not outside. They're inside. If you have a negative number inside, you can't do it. And some students, well, they'd be like, well, isn't that just negative 2? No. You're right, the square root of 4 is 2, but the square root of negative 4 is not 2. So when you have a negative in the under the square root, you can't do it. So you're going to say, cannot do. And I just want to show you one picture to show you my point. I just want to show you one picture that shows you that point. Here's your X and Y. That's one picture. Here's another picture. You see what I'm trying to show you? The parabola does not intersect here. It does not intersect the x-axis. That means that you have a problem. That means there's actually, this is another numbering system. And if you're really curious, you just can't sleep at night knowing this, it's called imaginary numbers. You can look that up and see what imaginary are. And if you really want to, they're technically I. But that's for another time, another course. Okay, but really the focus is on that formula. And I'm really, hopefully, that you can memorize this and memorize that formula. And we'll write it one more time for you. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by q. I would write that down and try to memorize as much as you can. I know it's easy for me because I'm a mathematician, but I had to, put some stuff down. I mean, I had to put that down and just put it in my wallet. And when I get bored or go to the bathroom, that might sound funny, but there you go. Or waiting in line to get some coffee, or renewing your driver's license, DMV. Woo! Just think. All right, hope you had some fun. See you next time.